deal with airplane peanuts.
The entire world of comedy is changing right in front of our eyes. What once was an industry dominated by gatekeepers with a clear yet treacherous path to the top has now been broken wide open into a new era where there are no rules, no one person dictating who can rise to the top, and no outside parties controlling what comedians can and cannot do. Comedy has become the ultimate meritocracy with almost no real restrictions, and there's no doubt the popularity of podcasting has played a huge role in this comedy revolution, with every comedian now owning their own version of a talk show instead of all gunning for the same few late night spots. But outside of just podcasts, there are more independently produced specials, movies, and even TV shows being created now than ever before.
The stuff you do with McKeever is incredible, and you have a new show coming on Netflix,
Netflix,
that you paid for yourself.
Yes.
Which is awesome. Was there ever a doubt like you would get to this point where it's like, I can now bring all my friends along and pay for this shit?
Well, the reason I'm friends with them is like they're good.
Were you feeling like this is a big risk to fund it myself, or you're like, I know it's going to be funny?
No, because we did it with Gillian Keeves. I funded that.
Yeah.
And it was like, we can just put it behind a paywall and I'll at least make it back. Even if I didn't make the money back, it'll result in ticket sales and I'll make the money back that way.
And in today's very special episode of the Comedy News, we had the pleasure of speaking with 3 New York comedians in order to learn more about how exactly the landscape of comedy has changed and what it really feels like to create high-level projects completely on your own, including Ian Fidance, who recently self-produced and funded his debut comedy special Wild, Happy, and Free, Sam Rubinoff, who has spent years making short films with some of New York's finest comedians, including his newest independent film Stuck in Park, and by the end of this episode, we'll even hear from Kevin Hart about his plans to help more comedians bet on themselves. This video is a deep dive into how the comedy world is currently evolving in real time, the different strategies comedians use to adjust to these changes, and what we can expect as fans moving forward. My first question for you is about the entire process of self-funding and self-producing a special for YouTube. Outside of all the time it takes to hone in the material, how much other shit is involved behind the scenes on these independent projects that other people might never realize?
A lot. Everything. See, I'm so sorry. My superintendent he's here to fix the air conditioner. Do you mind if I just run up and get it? I'm so sorry, Jake.
Yeah, go up there.
This is exactly why I kept pushing it back, because they were supposed to be here at 11 a.m., which is fuck. All right, I'll be right back.
All right.
God damn it. Holy shit. Jake, I'm sorry. My landlord died 2 months ago, and ever since then, it's been a nightmare getting actual people over here. I'm sorry.
It's okay. This is a great clip.
And the super didn't have his translator here, so I'm being like, Quando, I'm learning Spanish on Babbel, promo code B and Ian, so that I can talk to my superintendent easier, so we can fix the things that have been going wrong in the apartment, because I've been here since 2007 and the place is falling apart. Anyway, the hardest part of self-funding your own special is everything.
You've created a handful of short comedy films that star really popular New York comedians, the most recent being Stuck in Park with Joe List, Karen Feehan, Keith Robinson. What's the hardest part about doing these independent films on your own? We know what some of the benefits can be, but what are some challenges that you run into on a day-to-day basis?
I like working with comics, and so it's great to work with them. I think also like scheduling can be very tricky, and producing independent shorts that look really good and have a high production value when operating with limited resources is tough. Just like, I mean, the comics, especially New York comics I like working with, they have busy schedules. For example, comedians, we work mostly on weekends on the road, and that is usually when it's cheaper and easier to shoot film projects. I'm at the mercy of whoever's touring and what their schedule is. So like Stuck in Park, we shot this midweek, which was a little bit harder to do, but it was worth it.
So when you come up with an idea like this, once you have a new idea from casting the roles, does this all come into play? Like if you're like, I want to use Joe List, but he is out from these dates, would you rearrange that schedule to make that work? Or are you more committed to the script or the cast, if that makes sense?
That's a good question. It depends on how key for Joe, I really wanted him. He was in my last project, Civic Duty. I think he's a tremendous comedic actor. Like, I think he's next level. This shoot was going to revolve around his schedule.
Back to the special. During your special, you referenced a picture of your cat Samson on stage. What was the total inspiration for your stage design there? You had the chairs, you had a cool backdrop.
Yeah, so I wanted the special to feel like a throwback to the specials in the 80s and 90s with actual set design. I did an intro for the special, I did an outro for the special, and it wasn't just, you know, like walking up to the stage or walking through the kitchen or whatever. I really loved the old school specials where they had actual sketches before the special. Not a knock to anyone, but so many people put out specials and it's just a background and the lights and the, you know, the velvet curtain and everything. And I just, one of the things I loved about old school comedy was the set design and having, you know, big pillars and this and that. The inspiration for the set design was kind of kick it old school to make it like those old specials I grew up on. And of course, I had to tie it together with a photo of my cat, making it look like, you know, it was a memorial for his death, when in fact he's very much alive. He will never even know that I did this because he doesn't speak English, but I've told him.
Yeah, just wait till the Neuralink and then he'll be.
Oh, I can't wait, bro. I cannot wait.
Elon Musk, that stupid South African he wants to put a chip in our brain so that we don't have to tip-tap type on the phone and we can just send text without even typing. You, put a chip in my brain so I can know what my cat's thinking. I mean, what are we doing with our lives?
The parts before and after the special, the Ghostbusters intro and the Dave Attell cameo at the end, at what point during like the planning of an entire special do you start thinking about the fun extra stuff that's outside the material?
Oh, I had that in my head before the special. I had, this is what I want. This is what I'm going to build it around. And a lot of people were like, look, dude, it's going to be too much. Don't worry about it. Just get this belt. Why don't you just put this out and worry about it on the next one? You know, just get this out. We want you to concentrate just on this and then worry about that later. And then, you know, it'll be something to look forward to. I was like, no, the next one's not guaranteed. Nothing's guaranteed. I don't know what the fuck's going to happen. This is what I want. This is what I'm going to do. I've been working my dick off. I'm spending my money on it. I might as well fucking go in the hole even more to do the thing that I want. I know I'm going to make it back, and you're not going to tell me no. I'm going to do it because this is what I want. And I'm so glad I did. And from the very start to the very end, it was completely my vision, everything I wanted. And to see that come to life was really, really cool. And I can't wait to the next one because I already know what the intro and outro is going to be. I just have to fill in, you know, the act.
That's awesome.
Even from the music that was used, the two bands, King Nine, they're a New York hardcore band, and Drug Church, I'm friends with those guys, so to get them involved and everything was really cool. And the ska song was that's me playing guitar.
Oh, wow.
Like that's the ska band I was in from like 14 to 19, you know? So like I very much wanted to use and have people involved that are in my personal life and in my circle and everything. And so I love being able to do that. And just even having Jordan on the God mic and having her like slap my butt when I walk on and have Dave at the end, like that was so important to me. And so for all that to come through and people actually see it is really cool because you can create something and make something and it can be lost on people. But for people to see it and recognize that makes me feel very good. In the fact that I know what I'm doing, and the fact that people can recognize that and see it as well is really, really cool.
Well, some of the topics and themes in your short films could easily be premises to use on stage. How do you decide the best way to package a funny idea in today's era of so many options to express yourself, from reels to sketches, all the way up to actual stand-up, and then obviously short comedic films?
Well, like my last short, Civic Duty, which you could see, posters over there. And that started as just like a dumb idea of, hey, what if a car salesman was a hostage negotiator? And it started as, you know, a 90-second sketch that like a page and a half sketch.
Yeah.
And then I was like, there's still a lot that I want to do with this. And it kind of expanded. I used to have a joke in my act that wasn't quite about alternate side parking, but it was about how New York City parking rules will make even the biggest racist tolerant because we don't have to move our cars on holidays. So it's like this whole thing about how see a guy in Staten Island and he's wishing his Muslim neighbor a happy Ramadan because he doesn't have to move his car, you know? And so the genesis, I think it's actually really fun to think in a stand-up bit mindset and then expand from there, because a good joke has to be so tight.
Tommy Pope is someone who you worked with before. As someone who's worked with him in those type of situations before, what do you think we should expect to see from Tommy in Tires Etc. this week? And do you think this could be a breakout moment for him as a comedic actor?
Yeah, well, I know Tommy's playing a car salesman in Tires, so I think that he locked in on this is what he needs to be doing. As a side note, I can't think of another TV show I'm looked forward to watching more, and I've John McKeever, who's Shane's right-hand man and co-creator of that show, I think is one of the best comedy directors out there right now, and everything he puts out I watch, and I can't wait to see it. I know it's going to be great. I hope that the success of this show gives networks more faith in just like investing in comedy that's made by comedians.
Yeah.
Novel idea, right? Like, not made by committee, but just made by a couple people who are funny. And I think like those guys, I know a little bit about how they made that show, not a whole lot, but it sounds like they had an idea and they ran with it and they were able to sell it. And I think that's a great way to make things.
Going back to the shot of the street sweeper, that just made me think, this is just a very technical question, but how did you film that? Did you rent a street sweeper, or were you using a real schedule?
No, yeah. So this was months of planning just for that part of it. I was really studying the blocks, and we went in a few different ways. First, we tried to get the Department of Sanitation to play ball with us, and they sent us rates. They were more than what we could afford, but we were still like, okay, we'll figure this out. And we got down to like the final, and then they pulled out for I don't know why. So then we found a private company in New Jersey who essentially sent a street sweeper out in the morning. We had a permit on the block to shoot, but we had a live street because we couldn't afford to shut it down, which presented its own challenges. So that was how we shot it. We had 2 cameras rolling. We flew a drone, which you're not supposed to do in New York, to get an aerial shot. We got that up and down real quick. It was complicated, but you know what? It went off smoothly. We were out there for a good chunk of a day. Not a single car got a scratch on it. And wow. So I consider that a real win.
The trend of comedians breaking away to control their own projects is not new, as guys like Louis C.K. have been pulling this off for years on their own websites. But not everyone is Louis C.K. Up until very recently, going independent basically just meant you were self-funding projects for YouTube, Patreon, or maybe a live show on Moment House. But now, even big corporate dogs like Netflix have opened their eyes to what can happen when they put their faith in real comedy instead of being controlled by fear of backlash. Like we just saw with the Tom Brady roast being no holds bar, Hulu investing in a Bad Friends animated series, or even Shane Gillis paying to create an entire sitcom that features his friends in comedy and selling it to Netflix for a 2-season deal. What are your thoughts on Netflix pushing the envelope for more live streaming?
I think it's great. I mean, it sucks. I just got demonetized on YouTube. YouTube used to be the Wild West, and social media used to be crazy, and now YouTube is a square, and Netflix is going crazy. So the whole thing flipped.
Yeah, that seemed like it happened fast. The removal of mainstream corporate gatekeeping has created a very interesting situation in comedy that is unlike most other art forms right now, where comedy fans have become the driving force between who rises to the top and what projects take off. Instead of being fed the new It comedian by late night shows every week, comedy fans now have the ability to discover new comics on their own and choose what to support financially. With everything becoming more independent and gatekeepers mattering less and less, what is your prediction for where comedy and short filmmaking will be 10 years from now?
I'm trying to figure that out, and I really don't know, because at the end of the day, short films and narratives, they're a lot more expensive to make than like a podcast episode. So I think you still need to have somebody pay to download it. I think that or pay to view it in a way that isn't just ad run. I'm curious about like the VOD model. You know, Louis did that and he did that well. I don't know. I think that possible future is big names having their own networks and having fans download things directly. I think Tom Segura did that with some stuff. But I think that we live in a time where comedy fans are amazing. and they're devoted to the people that they like, and they can really dictate if we can make things. And I think that that's really special. So in some ways, I think the gatekeepers are the fans, and also the talent themselves.
Outside of Patreon, there's another paywall website called Punch Up Live that is gaining popularity with New York comedians right now, including Mark Normand, who recently released a behind-the-scenes look at his joke writing process on Punch Up, with plans to make more episodes featuring different comedians soon.
Yeah, I just want to say we all turned it down. Nobody got it. These are all clueless. They're all cowards. So we're putting it on Punch Up. If you like it, buy it, share it. If you don't like it, don't buy it, and we'll stop doing it. But if you like it, we'll keep making them, and we'll try to pick the you want to see work on a bit and follow him or her around. So do it ourselves, to the people, for the people.
Let's go. We're really doing it.
punchup.live/Ian Fidance for all my dates. I have a bunch of different clips and chunks behind the Punch Up wall, where all you have to do is just give your email and you have access to a bunch of unedited stand-up. I'm actually, the special I put out is like 95% of the first show. So it was 2 sold out shows. The first show, we nailed it. The second show was like crazy. The first show, everything went off without a hitch. The second show, I had to like drop the act, beat up the crowd.
Wow.
It was crazy. And there's a ton of material in there that I didn't put in the first show. And it almost feels like that in and of itself was like an art piece of like how to start in a hole, dig your way out and make it work. Like there was a point where I finally got the crowd like 20 minutes in, and verbally I'm like, now I got you motherfuckers. And they like finally rocked with me. But man, it was a fight. And I think I might put that up behind the Punch Up wall just to see the insanity of this second show and like what we had to work with the crowd. And there were like people just yelling out and people to be like escorted out. It was crazy.
That's insane. Do you advertise that you're filming your special? Like, are these your fans coming out, or was it just a sold out room?
Yeah, it was a lot of people that were really, really, really excited. So like I would say something and they would, and I had to be like, we're like recording a special. Like you're kind of getting in the way of the punchlines. We love you. And I'm like, I get that you love me, but shut the fuck up.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And like some people brought their families, and their families like had never seen me before. So like what's cool is all the people that are like coming to my shows and I'm like selling out, which is great. They're all people that rock with me, which is amazing. But sometimes it is like, oh, I brought my family, or like, I love you, so I brought my girlfriend. And then like, I'll like leave the venue and I'll hear like the guy be like, no, everything's a joke. It's okay. And the girl,
That's hilarious.
The unwavering support from comedy fans paying for content behind paywalls like Punch Up and Patreon has allowed so many of our favorite comedians to be where they are today. But obviously, not every fan can afford to pay for content, which is why it's so important to support the projects that have been given to all of us free of cost, like Stuck in Park or Wild, Happy, and Free, which will both be on the end screen after our next 2 segments. I'm not sure how many people are watching this exact part of the video, but even if half of us went over and checked out these 2 projects, commented something like Joke World sent me here from Joke World, we could affect the YouTube algorithm and support these independent comedy projects on our own. And that'd be pretty cool. Guest spots from last week: Terrence Howard was on the Joe Rogan Experience, 2 Bears 1 Cave had on Cam Haines, Kill Tony this week was with the regulars, Casey Rocket was on the Danny Brown Show, Your Mom's House, Are You Garbage, Stuff Island, and Flagrant all did not have guests. We Might Be Drunk welcomed Nikki Glazer. On You Be Trippin', Ari discussed Cambodia with William Childress. Jordan Jensen returned to the Adam Friedland Show podcast. Jordan also released episode 1 of her new podcast, R.I.P. Jordan Jensen. And Matt and Shane Secret Podcast welcomed RFK Jr.
They've applied everything to me. I mean, anti-Semitic, racist, talks of my dead ancestors, anti-vax, anti-science. This week it's that I have a brain worm, which was actually true.
Got you. That is a tough one.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
Brainworms.
This past weekend with Theo Von talked with Robert Greene. Colin Quinn was on Soder. Giannis Pappas and John Stamos went on Whiskey Ginger. Stavi's World welcomed Claire O'Kane and Brittany Carney. The Blocks podcast had on Trevor Noah. Veronica Slowakowska was the guest on Tiger Belly. Rick Glassman had Pauly Shore take his shoes off. Taste Buds battled Disney vs. Looney Tunes. Drew Lynch was on the way back. B and Ian with Jordan welcomed Brendan Sagalow and Emma Rose. And we interviewed Hans Kim and Rick Diaz right here on Joke World. As far as new stand-up comedy specials that are either out right now or coming out soon, Ali Sadiq Domino Effect Part 3 is out right now on YouTube, along with Ian Fidan's Wild, Happy, and Free, which is out on the B and Ian with Jordan channel. Nimish Patel also has a new 30 minutes of stand-up out on his channel. Nikki Glazer Someday You'll Die is out right now on Max. And out on Netflix is Cat Williams' Woke Folk, Kevin Hart's Mark Twain Ceremony, Rachel Feinstein Big Guy, Franco Escamilla Ladies Man, and not technically a special, but the Stand Up on the Spot channel has a brand new episode up right now that features Mark Normand, Sam Morril, Dan Soder, Joe Liss, Corinne Fisher, and Jeremiah Watkins. There's also a few specials in the works right now that will be coming out soon, starting off on June 4th with Joe Coy live from Brooklyn out on Netflix. And speaking of Netflix, Tires Etc. from Shane Gillis and John McKeever is out right now on Netflix, which we'll cover more in depth next week. Other than that, thank you so much for watching episode 104 of the Comedy News. It's honestly crazy to think this video marks 2 years since the first news update that we made. Thank you to everyone who's been watching and supporting all the way from the beginning till now, or whenever you started. I just hope we've done a good job keeping you in the comedy loop. And here's to 1,000 more years of bringing you all the comedy news. And also just an FYI before we go, if you've watched this deep into the video, it's legally required that you press subscribe. I don't know why, it's a weird rule, but I'd hate to see anything happen to you guys getting jammed up with the law, so just press subscribe real quick before we go. And also, if you want some free Joke World stickers, check out the link in our description below.
At Joke World. That's it, at Joke World.
And the world is WRLD.
That's a great YouTube channel, Joke World. Check it out.